Welcome, everyone. I'm here with Andy, Konrad, Rich, and myself. And today we decided to talk about what our journeys have been like as coaches. We got into the field, with the intention to inspire other coaches to learn about our journeys, how it's been like, what it's like to work yourself up to being a coach. Andy, do you feel like leading us off, sharing a bit about your story, what made you decide to get into coaching?
Sure. How I got into it, it's slightly different answers, but I'll take a shot at answering them both succinctly. How did I get into coaching? You've heard me say this, Mick, maybe others. I feel like now connecting the dots backwards, as Steve Jobs would say, I've always been a coach. And
Right.
it takes my wife and other people remind me, remember when you said that to your now sister-in-law, in the 80s? Like, oh yeah, I was coaching her. So how did I get into it? I was born and then stuff happened. And here I am. And what got me deeper into it, or what helped perhaps I would say embrace my calling into this and do more of it, is number one part of it, the reflective people, where they would, as I'm leading technology teams over the years or whatever, people would reflect back to me when I do a coaching or a development session about their annual review or something. Like, I'm one of those freaks who always loved annual reviews, right? And my peers would say, what is wrong with you? Nobody likes annual reviews. So I'm like, no, isn't it a great chance to really share not only verbally all the stuff you've been talking about with your team member over the years, but over the year, but in writing. One of my former leaders used to say, yeah, read your reviews and it's like reading poetry. I'm like, really? Oh, good. Well, I hope the team member feels that way. So they don't,
Right.
walk out on me. So what really got me into it then was, again, looking backwards, the unfolding over time of me leaning into that work that others would say, boy, that's your essence. That's your calling. That's where you're really strong. And me slowly but surely saying, okay, yes, then, and getting some official training, a 1-year graduate school program in executive coaching, certifications, that sort of stuff. And then just practicing it and doing more and more of it. And, as was it Dr. Wayne Dyer would say, what you focus on expands. And so as
Right.
I more on it, it keeps expanding. I keep enjoying it more. I keep loving it. And now thankfully I just feel I'm doing my life's best work. So
Nice.
that's turned out to be more of a monologue than a dialogue than I wanted. But
No,
thanks
but I
for
like that
holding
one.
space while I explained it.
Yeah, I think that's cool, especially what you said about, always having been a coach. I feel like resonates with me as well. But then the question popped up because I can imagine people listening being like, all right, so, you were sort of pulled into it, or at least there was much in your environment that gave you the sign like, hey, I might need to lean into coaching. What gave you that confidence that you were like, all right, I am going to do this. I am going to be a coach.
Yeah, confidence. Um, I knew how it made me feel, where it was like longer lasting goodness instead of just the temporary ego boost of, yay, I finished the project, I got a raise, like nothing wrong with those things. And it just felt like a taste of new wine, if I may quote more of a Christian context, or just a deeper feeling like, oh no, this is something richer, deeper, more meaningful is going here when I coach or when I'm coached. And like, okay, this is the work that I want to do. So that gave me that confidence. And then, frankly, getting clear with myself. Okay, out of all the things you could be doing, you could keep doing the technology leadership thing. You can do music, which I enjoy doing as well. But I just decided for myself a few years ago, my favorite people in the world are people who do two types of work: music and coaching. And if you do both, watch out, because I'm going to stick to you, because those are my people. That's the people I enjoy hanging around with, which includes all of you guys on this call. I just love this work. I love talking about it. I love doing it. And it's rah rah. Yeah. Woot.
Cool.
So
I like
Mick, do
that.
you have more reflections you can give on it? I want to spread the love around here. I'm, as Conrad would say, I am now turning the mic over to you all.
Rach, what came to you when you were listening to Andy?
Yes. So yeah, I love everybody's kind of origin story and how they got into whatever they've gotten into. And you know, I like similar, very similar to Andy, like, you know, I'm like 54 and it took me decades to find coaching. And I think similarly, you know, I've been coaching people, I've been working with teams and people for a really long time. And I think what I noticed a long time ago, and it's just something that I've always gravitated towards, is that, you know, I was always looking for the I was always looking for something that was very satisfying for me. And I've run into so many people that are doing the exact same thing. They're looking for something that something that will fully satisfy them. And I've always wanted to, you know, help and assist people in that, particularly since I've found it with myself. And it was a bit daunting, but I think what pulled me through was the idea of being able to help other people. I gravitate towards that, and I really really appreciate being able to have conversations with, you know, with people around helping them get to their next level. Konrad just said that in a previous conversation. He said, you know, next level coaching. And, you know, and I just grabbed right onto that. Um, the the ability to, you know, assist someone. And, you know, Mick and I have had a conversation a couple of days ago where everybody is is perfect as they are. They don't, you know, they have all of the answers inside of them, and sometimes there's you know, a coach is a good opportunity to help what people want to do and accomplish that is inside them, helps them to you know, blossom and take those next steps in the, you know, in the direction that they want. And that is such a beautiful thing to see, and such an amazing thing to be part of. And that is what's kind of brought me to where I am today in coaching. It's just an absolute blessing, and feel like I'm doing my best work as well. Last thing, I think there's an Albert Einstein quote that the best life lived is a life of service. And this is such a you know, perfect thing that I have been looking for. I've been kind of walking around it for years, and this has allowed me to just get a whole lot deeper than with myself and with other people, with clients and whoever, just people walking around, people that you meet on the street, you know, much deeper than I've ever been able to before. Thanks for asking.
Cool. I love that. I think that's nice. That's a lot of points. I love how I mean, what resonates with me a lot is this the service oriented approach to that. Like, hey, I just want to give. I like that. I can feel that one too. I think that's pretty strong.
Thanks.
Any thoughts on that, Konrad?
Yeah, I suppose, you know, coaching is a very natural skill set. Okay, it just is. People just know, right, that they created space for other people so they can open up and explore their options. And in many cases, just like Andy said at the beginning, right, I love that, you know, I was born and then coaching happened. Yeah, that's exactly that. Yeah, it's a skill set, natural, you know, multi-layered, multi-leveled, multi-dimensional skill set that is applicable in virtually every area of life. Whether it's a certain prowess when it comes to relationships also. Yeah, it's the capacity to take a person from A to B, whether it's a child, you know, a friend, you know, a coworker, or a coaching client. Yeah, it's a certain meta skill set that can be applied in various areas of life. And so, for example, I observed myself in primary school when other kids were asking me for advice, comfort and guidance. Then there was secondary school, then there was high school, then there was university, and it was kept on happening, and time again. Then no matter where I worked, whether it was sales, customer fulfillment, whether it was logistics, management, it didn't matter. I still ended up being that person whom others will come to, to open up to and explore their options. So then I thought, okay, well, I'm doing so many other things. I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm a, business consultant. So why don't I just also add to that being a coach, and finally slap that label on top of it as well? Yeah, and I would imagine that from a certain perspective, that is a very self-empowering journey. It can be like that, right? To own that skill set fully.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine that it will also resonate, with the right people, right? What we are talking about on this call today, right? That, I've actually always had it. Why don't I use it? Why don't I utilize it somehow? Why don't I create, a new opportunity, to provide some service, or for an opportunity for other people to grow? And if I can also make it a living, or even as a side project, it will still benefit everybody involved. Yeah. And coaching is definitely, one of those areas of, let's say, personal development that can offer so much satisfaction and fulfillment for everybody involved. Yeah. And it's
So
such
true,
a beautiful
Konrad.
journey. Yeah.
So true. In fact, there's something I want to build on there with what you're saying, and also with what Rich said, that this living a life of service, truly work in service of others, just so satisfying. I mean, some of the people I coach and other people's, there's plenty of stories out there about someone who, achieved this level of their careers, and then realized, oh shit, I should, give back, and I'll give a little snarky warning here. Sometimes when I hear people giving back, I want to ask the question, well, have you only been taking this whole time? Like, what the hell have you been doing? Like if half a century isn't enough to make a difference with your life, you might be doing something wrong. Like, just saying, right? And so, and snarky comment, I mean, everybody is resourceful, capable, and whole, and finds ways to make a difference. And I think since we're talking about coaching, how do we get into it? Why are we doing it? Can you make a living? Yes, to any questions, because I went independent, 6 or 9 months ago, and it's like this was like a full circle, fullness of time to be able to say, oh yeah, of course the work is there. I went from 1 client to 17 clients kind of overnight, it feels like, and the work is happening. And to be able to be in service of others, like Rich first started us getting in, that there's just no other feeling like that. And it's a two-way street. You're making a difference, and they're making a difference for you. And there's this yin yang, just virtuous cycle that I think with coaching.
Yeah. What I'm curious about then, Konrad, and it's sort of the same question as for Andy, but I feel like what we're all talking about is that which led us to the point where we were gonna make the leap into coaching. And I'm curious, what was that leap like? Because there's some point where you realize, like, oh, okay, coaching exists. Okay, I seem to have the skills. People seem to like me. If I connect the dots, I can see that I've been doing this for a very long time. But then there comes the point where you got to start introducing yourself as the coach. That's the point where you got to get out there and get clients. What was for you, Konrad, that point where you were like, all right, this is it. This is, now I'm taking that leap.
I suppose it was growing realization that people sometimes don't know what they want in the first place. They want some guidance, They might want some advice. They want some space. They might want for someone to create that opportunity for growth and expansion. And, being a hypnotherapist is great, but it's a different kind of interaction. Being a consultant, it's great, but it's a different kind of interaction. Being a mentor is great, but it's a different kind of interaction. Being a coach is great, and it's a different kind of interaction. And from what I've seen, from my calls, I'm known for my calls. It's a very specific kind of an experience, right? The Konrad salutations, they are very specific, right? However, this is my signature trait. This is my signature move. Yeah, these are very specific experiences that I've sort of polished over the years. It just happened, right? They happen very seamlessly, very flowy. The magic just happens on call one time after another, after another. And so I thought that, okay, if I'm doing it anyway, if I can get better also in that coaching kind of aspect of personal development, then it will benefit everyone included, right? What can be measured can be improved. Therefore, if I also investigate that coaching relationship with people, then I can also get better at it. And so, it's a very specific kind of, our own personal flavor, right? We all have a super specific kind of an offering, facilitation, right? That we can share with other people. And it's also so important to know what it is. And for me, it seems to be that hybrid approach. Yeah, I know that, for example, there are people who are very pure coaches, and that's great. If it works for them, wonderful. I tend to provide that blended approach if it's necessary, for example, yeah, or needed, because I have the tools. I've investigated it, explored those options. I got better at them. Therefore, I can mix and match, so to speak, which is my flavor of experience that I provide. And so, I wonder then, Mick, how would you describe yourself as a coach, and what got you into that coaching journey?
Right. What is funny is that I'm younger than all of you, and I feel like you guys have sort of had a life before coaching, and I mean I have too in a way, but when I got into coaching, I didn't even know it was a thing. I didn't even know what coaching was when I started my education. It just sounded cool and exciting and nice, and I had this sort of idea about it, but it was only when I went through the education that I realized how much it actually suited me. So I feel like for me, in a way, it was, I mean, all of the ways that we just described are natural, but for me, it came so natural because it was really I felt like I was still being molded, if you know what I mean. I didn't know about coaching and then thought, maybe that's something for me. It was more of a, okay, you're going to be a coach from now. And that suited me a lot. So that, in a way, is a big difference, because I feel like it was more to choose to do that type of education that was the conscious choice, not so much the choice of I'm going to be a coach. And then going through the education, there were, of course, points where I was like, yeah, this really suits me. And like you said, Andy, in the beginning, if you connect the dots, I suddenly realized how long I'd been coaching already, and that it was actually something that I loved. Because it was because of that question that my mentor asked me, what is something that people thank you for, that when they do, you're like, but I didn't really do anything special. Mm-hmm. And that question, that made me realize, right, people like talking to me. People thank me for just listening to them. And I always think, all right. And to me, that the moment that I could answer that to that question, I was like, all right, I'm going to be coaching. I know I'm on the right path. And every time where I may doubt it, I think back to that question, that I'm like, right, I am ready to be a coach. And I feel like answering that question changed my whole want to say changed my whole being, which might exaggerate it a little bit, but it just changed my look on myself and my capabilities as a coach, because I had been doing it all along, even before I went through an education to do it. So that gave me that confidence, and also straight away the ability to take that leap and be like, right, I'm just now going to own it and actually ask money for what I am so good at doing. So there's some overlaps with all of your stories. And I feel like, indeed, like Konrad said, we all have this individual way of going about it, as well as our coaching and the whole way that we got into it. And I think that's very powerful. And yeah, I hope that people who are listening and now feel inspired to take a look at their own story and connect the dots back in a way where they realize, like, hey, this is something I'm excited about. And even if you made it all the way through this video, that is already a sign, you know, that you're probably you probably might consider yourself, you know, coaching sooner or later.
Right on.
Is there anything?
May I build on that just for a second?
Yeah,
I'm going to build on that for a second, Mick, just because it occurred to me, you know, since so many of us, and I love we have this diversity of age, right? As you delicately put it, Mick, right? We've been doing it. We've all been doing it all our lives. Some lives are longer than others so far.
Right.
And since we are connecting our dots backwards, maybe some people who are watching or listening, it helps them connect some dots going forward, or have, you know, maybe an alignment or a calibration of their compass, if not a roadmap of, oh, because I've heard these stories, maybe, and I felt some of those, you know, rhythms and patterns in my life already, maybe there is some coaching in my future. So I love the way you were kind of teeing that up, Mick. And I think we're all giving a big encouragement. Clearly, we all love this work and we have passion for it. So perhaps it inspires others.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything to that, Rich? Or any final words?
Yeah. I think, like, you know, there's I think a key for me has been to keep looking and don't give up. And I say that because, you know, we all have that feeling within us, like whether we've arrived where we want to, where we feel like we want to be. And so really kind of you know, dovetailing off of what Andy said, you know, it you know, maybe it's coaching, maybe it's not coaching, you know, it's whatever you want to do, it's possible. And just to keep moving forward and trying things, and you'll find it. And along the way, maybe a coach isn't a bad person, or a coach is definitely not a bad person to help you figure that out.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, guys, for sharing this. I really appreciate hearing those stories from all those perspectives, talking about the same thing. I think it's really cool. And thanks everyone for watching. And us four plus someone else, we'll see you more often.